Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Brian Smith with another edition of the Daily Night. And today's episode is going to be about Mikey Keene and his expectations from Game 4 for him as a starter, Game 7 overall for the Knights, all the way through the end of the season and then the bowl game. I am also the publisher at Inside the Knights, and there's going to be a lot about Keene between the end of this game and the next week, because now he's to the point where, quite frankly, we should see growth. And that's what this episode's about, and it's the precursor to a couple other articles I'm going to write on Inside the Knights. So with that, let's get started. I've got 3 things down on my notes. None of these are necessarily rocket science, although the last one will probably surprise a few people, but it would be a good thing. I'll just give you that bit of information. So segment 1, I'm going to start off with something I've been complaining about the last couple of weeks, and it is something that's hindering the program, the deep ball. Teams are making Mikey go inch by inch down the field. He hasn't figured out a way to circumvent cover 3, etc., where they're playing, quite frankly, very deep and just saying, we don't believe your freshman quarterback will legitimately find ways to inch down the field with 10, 12, 14 play drives. And most of the time, freshman quarterbacks do not. They have to find a way to make it happen anyway. And I think for that reason, Brandon Johnson, who caught, if people remember, a fade ball in game number 1 against Boise State. Now, I know that was Dylan throwing it. He caught a fade ball, a stop fade, if you will. It's a difficult route, but something like that to a bigger receiver like Brandon makes sense. The tight ends, Alec Holler. A bomb doesn't have to be an over-the-top guy catches it and runs to the end zone. He could be 30 yards down the field and be a jump ball. My guy is bigger than yours. I'm taking the ball away. That counts in this scenario as well. Must have chunk yardage plays. Talked about it quite a bit. Today is no different. I will talk about it nonstop pretty much until they figure it out, because it's what's causing this offense not to move the ball. Gus Malzahn went out of his way, unsolicited, at his press conference this week to talk about it. So that puts an idea of how important the coaching staff thinks it is too. I think Holler down the middle of the field, you could see an out and up from him. That's another option because, again, he's a big guy. He's 230 pounds or whatever it is. Somebody that size, you're going to find a way in a jump ball situation. Maybe it's him. Obviously, you're going to try to get the ball to Ryan O'Keefe. Tremendous athlete. He can still run the screens just like Amari Johnson, and you can throw the ball to Johnny. That's fine. But teams knew that, especially last week with Cincinnati. They had zero respect for going over the top, and their corners played downhill like a defensive lineman. Yet UCF kept throwing short. It doesn't work. Part of that was Mikey's fault, not reading things correctly, and playing Cincinnati's defense isn't fun, not just because of talent, but their scheme is really convoluted. So that doesn't help his cause. But he didn't change the snap count. They were guessing it. They were getting off before the offensive tackle was. He gave himself no chance. So that's the other thing. A little side note to Mike. Vary the cadence all the time. Because I guarantee you Memphis is going to see that and say, hey, we're going to go after him too. But with that, they have to hit some shot plays. It could be a flea flicker. It could be a traditional just go route, something. And it needs to be early. That's the expectation for this week. A little tidbit for next week when I talk about it a little more in an article I have coming up on Inside the Knights. If he does hit a couple of these plays, defenses will adjust again. Every time you play a game, there's new film. You need to learn to adjust on your adjustment. It never changes. Every game, there's going to be somebody come up with another opportunity to beat you. You have to come up with something different. That never changes. You can't be the same guy. You know, like Herschel Walker did pretty much 1 or 2 things. Well, that's Herschel Walker. Mikey Keene's certainly not Herschel Walker. You need to be ready to diversify. This is game 1 for it. I'm hoping that the offense gets going over the top with passes. I'm going to chart it. 15 or more in the air, not screens, that the ball travels from the line of scrimmage to the point that it reaches somebody's hands, and then they move forward. That's one of the articles I'm going to talk about. I don't even want to know. Don't even want to know what those stats are over the last 2 games, because it would be a very short article, about 100 words, 1 or 2 a game. It's been terrible. They've tried. It just hasn't worked. The pass down the sideline to Johnny, though, tremendous play. That kind of play works, and that's why I brought him up. He is so fast. Not the biggest guy. You really got to throw it in there. But Keene on that play demonstrated he could do it. So that's number one. Number two, and this is the words that every high school and junior high kid, phrase that they hate hearing because it's 1,000 times. Protect the football. Keene has thrown pick 6 last week. He's on watch here because teams are reading what he does. They're seeing things before he does, etc. That's part of being a freshman. Have to get past that. No ridiculous pick 6s. Kobe Bryant was sitting on that. He almost had to wait for it. We can't have that. Win, lose, or draw, cannot have that. Second of all, just because you don't throw a pick 6, it doesn't lead to opportunities for other players, depending on what you do. You need to continue, and he's done a pretty good job of this, to put players in positions once they catch the ball to not only make yards after catch, but not to get popped, etc. Memphis is an aggressive defense. They take some chances. They got one corner that had a ton of pass breakups in his first 3 games, and then teams have stayed away. He's a true freshman. He's kind of a riverboat gambler. You got to be careful. And not only can you get a pick 6, you can get one of your guys lit up. Don't do that. And then, of course, just protect the football. I'm a little leery watching Keene in the pocket with the ball. I'm not sure how strong he is with the ball. They've done a fairly good job of allowing him to get the ball out, but I'm curious to see what Memphis does because their pass defense is terrible. I believe off the top of my head, they're 116. They're terrible. But they've got one safety that's really good too. He's like 62 tackles. Are they going to bring him into the box? Are they going to do different things? Part of that's going to be dependent upon Isaiah Bowser. And before anybody asks, no idea how healthy he is. Gus mentioned around 80% as of like Sunday, Monday. How much of a banging could he take during practice? Because you got to run it. You got to get hit during practice. So they're in a bad spot. They can't win either way they go. He needs not to practice, but get better and get in better cardio shape. He can't just do the exercise bike. He needs to do physical drills and get banged around. So I'd be curious to see what they're doing with that. I'm hoping that if he can run the ball, it will certainly not only help the over the top, but it'll help alleviate some of the turnovers because the coverage will have to come up, and it just makes it easier for Mikey to read the field. So part of the problem with the turnovers goes away. Johnny, Mark, they've got some good running backs. Trillion, they're fine. They're fine at running back, but Bowser's an NFL player now. I mean, he can play in the NFL right now, assuming he was healthy. So if he's able to go, play action is open. You're probably going to have safeties coming up a couple extra yards. That opens up for O'Keefe, Holler, Johnson, the other Johnson. Everybody gets an opportunity. And I'm kind of curious also, one other player just going to throw in here. Titus hasn't done as much the last game, etc. I'm curious to see if they try to get him deep. He's going to get single coverage. If you put him on the same side as O'Keefe, that's another speed guy. Hopefully they can do that. Before I go into the last segment and talking about the point that I think people will be a little surprised by, think about the following with Cincinnati. A lot of NFL talent on their defense, Ahmad Gardner, Kobe Bryant, in my opinion, except for maybe Georgia, debatable, but I would take Cincinnati, the best combination of corner in the country. They're going up against a Memphis team that is just all over the map in terms of their defense. It's 116 in passing defense. Okay, that's bad. There's no way to sugarcoat that. It's bad. But at the same time, they have guys that have had a lot of pass breakups. Is UCF going to hit some double moves? Just something to think about, because those guys are obviously aggressive if they're getting PBUs. They have to be. The freshmen in particular. Now, the last 3 games, he's had like 1, something like that. But that's beside the point. They're aggressive. How undisciplined are they? UCF might get a walk-in touchdown if they can time it right, throwing a hitch, comeback, curl, whatever, and then run that same route with a double move, fake it, and just go deep, out and up, whatever. That's something I think is very susceptible for Memphis, and it's something that Gus Malzahn certainly utilizes as part of his RPO package and just every downs that he has an opportunity to throw the ball. He looks for vertical. That's his thing. Screens and bombs. He tries to stay out of the middle of the field like most coaches because it's the highest percentage area to have a pass intercepted because overthrows go right to the free safety. It's just a fair catch, basically. That's why most NFL teams really stay away from the middle of the field unless they've got a really good quarterback. Even at that level, it's just harder. UCF has a chance, I think, with double moves to hit one, if not two of those. Flea flicker, that play that Louisville gave up the touchdown over to the receiver back to Dylan, and Dylan ran it. You're going to see something different because they have to generate offense. So it's not just double moves, but that's just my first thought. I would like it to be with Mikey Keene having the opportunity to improve. If he sees it, he feels more comfortable. Other guys get more comfortable with him, so that's important. So with that, I'm going to end segment 1 here. And the other thing, please note that there really isn't any limit to how many, quote unquote, shall we say, trick plays you can run when you're just not scoring. Just throw that out there. It could be several in this game. My final point for evaluating Mikey Keene is something I was a little surprised by because he's a good athlete. He reminds me of the kind of guy that could play second base or center field in baseball. He could play point guard in basketball. He only has 8 carries for -5 yards. Now, sacks count against carries. But for him to be in the negative is not a good sign. And I know part of it is they're scared to death of him to get hit. If he gets hurt, it's just going to be bad news bears. I get it. He has to run the football some in a very proactive and aggressive manner, though, for this offense to work. For Gus's offense to work, quarterback must run. It is a do not pass go, pass go, do not get 200. Got to do it. How do they get him to get to 25, 30 yards rushing? And you're thinking, that's not very much. Those kind of yards for a quarterback like Mikey that's semi-mobile usually relate to 3rd down and 4, and you pick up first downs. That's why the number is very significant. They've had too many 3rd downs where it's 3rd and 6, where I know he's not Michael Vick. He's not John Elway. He's not Brett Favre, guys that run around, make plays in different ways. But he's still pretty athletic. I would like to see him take off every now and then. Again, if you run the ball well, regardless of how it is, safeties come up. That never changes either. They have to find a way to get Mikey Keene to run the ball effectively. Effectively does not mean 20 carries for 85 yards and 3 touchdowns. It means, did he pick up first downs? If the answer is yes, thumbs up. That's it. Final point before I get out of here. With the Friday game tomorrow, it's pretty interesting to me how the timing is going to work. It just kind of a little extra bonus here, something to think about. Gus talked about short week for UCF. They played a Saturday game. They come back, play Friday. It is at home. That's the one advantage he mentioned. True. But on the other side, Memphis played a Thursday game last week, so they have 2 extra days of rest. In football, that is huge. For that reason, I keep talking about UCF getting out to a fast start. Couldn't be more paramount anyway, just because of the mentality, hey, we're not playing well. If you get behind to a team that can score, and they average 35.9 points per game, and they can pick and choose when they run and pass, and they've got good running backs. They've got 2 or 3 of them. They're good. They just happen to pass the ball extremely well. They've got practically a prodigy at quarterback as a freshman that hardly anybody wanted, but he's averaging over 300 yards a game as a true freshman. Good for Memphis. The point is this. If you play from behind and your depleted depth chart on defense, especially defensive tackle, has to play chase, your chances of winning are slim and none. You must play with the lead from the second quarter forward, or you will lose, barring them just turning the ball over and giving you freebies. They will destroy you. If they can run play action, run the ball when they want, etc., you must play with the lead. You don't have as many players healthy as they do. It's just the way it is. So with that, please check me out on Inside the Knights. I think this is going to be a very interesting game one way or the other. I still don't even know my prediction score yet. Still analyzing some of the data. Memphis is just such a bad defense. 5 out of the 7 games they played, the other team has had at least one receiver go over 100 yards. They are not good. If UCF can throw the ball down the field, they can win this game. Memphis is better right now, but UCF can win this game. So everybody be safe. Thank you very much and have a great day.